Hit the button.
Hit the button.
Like a good neighbor.
Yeah, good neighbor. That was like the commercial of the Super Bowl, wasn't it?
I think so. Because
I can't
don't
remember a single other commercial except for the fucking Arnold one.
There was like, I know Doritos had their commercial, which was like a commercial within a commercial because they had a teaser trailer for the actual commercial. Like, I feel like we're getting to a new part of Super Bowl commercials where it's just unnecessary.
Yeah. I would argue.
Trailer.
I would argue we reached that point at two different points. One, and I'm so sorry to do this to everybody, the puppy monkey baby commercial.
Dude. Oh my god. A friend of mine, she sent me a video of her parents laughing at the puppy monkey baby, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, laughing at that. And she was like confused, like, why is this funny? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So it was that. Welcome everybody to the Tougies Take podcast, by the way. It was that. Hi. This is what we talk about before we actually start the show. It was that, and it was when they killed Mr. Peanut.
Oh my god, Baby Nut.
Yeah.
Baby Nut. Hell yeah, Baby Nut.
I feel like if there was a jumping the shark moment for Super Bowl commercials, if one didn't do it for you, the other was just like, all right, we're pretty much done here, aren't we?
Yeah. Man. I mean, you think like Puppy Monkey Baby was like an absurd thing, but then again, like you have kids who watch like Skibidi Toilet. Now, are you aware of what Skibidi Toilet is?
No, because you told me not to look it up. I've seen the reference, and I probably know what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so you know, it's a lot of things combined into one. I will say that, and I think we will talk about this because it's a good thing to talk about on the podcast because we don't like talking about hockey, even though it's a hockey podcast, fraudcast, if you will. So. For those who are unaware, the reason why Skibidi Toilet was brought up entirely was I volunteer with an after sports school program that does like kids' birthday parties and everything. And I went to a birthday party this weekend, and for a bunch of 9-10-year-olds who were playing soccer, and like they're pretty good soccer players. Not gonna lie, for 9 and 10 years old. The birthday cake had elements of Skibidi Toilet on it. Now, Skibidi Toilet is a conglomeration of several things. You know that meme of the dude, the big guy, the fat guy who's like Skibidi dop 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 dop. Yes. So basically, it's a playoff of that. It's a playoff of
just the worst parts of internet culture is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so many different parts. There's like. It's using source element, like Valve source engine elements in there. I believe the whole face of the guy is like the G-Man, or like someone of is either the G-Man or Gordon Freeman himself. And then there's a toilet involved for some reason, and like it's evolved from like that song. Then it went to like that one song that was in what's that Addams Family movie that came out? The Addams Family series, Wednesday?
Yeah.
The Dance with My Hands thing. Like they went from that, and then it went from Nelly Furtado's like song with Timbaland. It was like when you see us in the club, we be acting real nice, like that song.
Yeah.
And then it went from that, and now it's just evolved in this weird conglomerate, and like Skibidi Toilet has lore.
So that song, to move on from the toilet, that song, the Nelly Furtado song, I've shown you and streamed the video before, but there was a basketball YouTuber in the early days of YouTube. God, I can't remember his fucking name at this point, but he was a Sonics fan. And he did a remake of that song about Steve Nash. And it was, when Stevie's on the floor, he passes real nice. And even though he's short, his ass is real nice. He's got an average person's body. Small body. I will find that video.
Oh man.
In the meantime, Jesus Christ. But also, I went to an article from yardbarker.com that has some of the worst commercials of all time from the
Oh
Super
boy.
Bowl. Puppy Monkey Baby is, of course, very much up there. But some of the headlines um, are tremendous,
Oh
such
my
as
god.
Squarespace wants you to work yourself to death, based off of a Squarespace commercial in the past. Mr. Peanut's funeral. Dodge uses MLK to sell a truck. A Fiat takes Viagra. And my favorite, Kendall Jenner ends racism with Pepsi.
Oh yeah, the Pepsi one.
That might
God,
be
that's
where Super Bowl commercials jumped the shark.
no. I think they peaked when they tried to cure everything with just Pepsi. That was the best. The most out of touch celebrity family in the world doing an advertisement with
God.
Pepsi, trying to solve peace.
So
Great.
let us know what your favorite or least favorite Super Bowl commercials of all time happen to be. In the meantime, hi Endo, how are you?
I'm good. How was your weekend, Mr. Birthday Man?
Oh.
Birthday boy. Birthday man.
Birthday man, officially.
Birthday grandfather.
Jesus Christ, birthday 1 foot in the grave.
Yeah.
We actually got a viewer question about that. In honor of Tougie turning 30, what's a perspective that's changed as you've gotten older? So yeah, I turned 30 this past Saturday, which is kind of weird. It didn't hit until I got this card.
Oh my
Just a
god.
gigantic ass 30 on this card. This is from my wife, by the way, because she's laughing at me, even though it's her turn later on this year. Yeah, I mean we didn't do too much, right? Like birthdays for me, even like the big one, oh, the 30 and whatever. Birthdays for me haven't really been a huge thing for a long time. Primary reason for that, I'll be honest, like it's a real reason, right? There's no humor behind it. But when I was a kid, my dad ended up getting very, very sick. So he's fine now. He's still with us, but he ended up suffering from Crohn's disease, which attacks the intestines. So he ended up having surgery in 2003 that removed like the vast majority, if not all, of his large intestines, because it was going to kill him, basically. So he went from being the bread maker of the household to being on disability and really not being able to work. So at a very young age, we went from really good birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that to, hey, son, here's the realities of the world with financial situations and such. So even as a teenager, it wasn't a huge thing for me to be like, yeah, my birthday, because very early on, it was very much not about gifts or anything like that. It was very much more of like the sentimental stuff behind it. So my wife and I, we were in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And we went out to dinner with friends of ours and just kept it pretty low key, simple. Got some good poutine. You gotta get the poutine on your birthday, you know. But yeah, it was just a low key kind of day, which is kind of how I like it. Like despite the fact that I at the moment make a living with a camera in my face, I am not the type of person where I'm like, yes, I must be the center of attention. Everybody in this establishment must know that it is my birthday. Like, no, I don't care. So it's not like I feel drastically different from Friday, at age 29 to Saturday at age 30. And we've had that conversation on the show before too. I think Sim was on for that one too. Obviously our boy is still in Finland. He should be back. Is actually coming back, I believe, March 1st, unless he's extended his trip. So next week, he will be here on the show. It'll probably be a midweek show as well, because going to North Kakalaki, Crash Andrews this weekend for AEW Revolution. So I wanted to be
what,
home.
you don't want to record it in the airport like he wanted to do for Turnbuckle? God, that was funny.
It's like, Crash, you were insane. So yeah, I mean, Monday and maybe even some of Tuesday could end up being a travel day for me. So we won't be able to record until next Wednesday or Thursday, which will end up being a trade deadline preview for the NHL because that is March 8th. More on that shortly. Yeah, just overall, the birthday things haven't been too crazy. It was a good, quiet day. I'm good with that. Don't need anything more than that. But it is goddamn weird to be like, yes, I'm 30. Even though, like physically, I don't feel all that different than I did when I was like 23. You know, like we haven't crossed that threshold yet of, oh God, I physically or mentally feel old. Especially when we do a podcast like this and you and I joke about toilets and internet memes for the first 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah. I mean, like, people can't make fun of kids liking Skibbity Toilet, like you bring it up again, because people love the fuck out of Rabbids. Like, Rayman, Rabbids, little fucking white little small little thing with the plungers. People love the crap out of that. To the point that Ubisoft has abandoned all proper IPs and just went for Rabbids for like a decade. We haven't got a good Rayman game, but we'll get a game about the fucking Rabbids. Jesus Christ. Bring back Rayman.
So for the record, to wrap up our internet meme talk, I found the video I was referring to, the basketball video, uploaded May 8th, 2007.
Jesus.
Paul Brogan, NBA rap, in brackets, original. I linked it to you there. Make sure to watch it later. It is the whitest of white guys in 2007. But god damn it, I hope wherever Paul Brogan is now, he's doing well because
oh boy, my favorite white guys.
He's never been forgotten. To answer that question though, Endo, I mean you're still in your 20s.
Yeah,
you child, you literal child. What's a perspective that has changed as you have gotten older?
Nobody don't mean shit. Oh, I think my browser just crashed.
Yeah, I was gonna say your webcam froze too. We can still hear you though. You're good.
Froze. Yeah, so it's gonna be frozen. It says Microsoft Edge. Oh, there we go. It says not responding. I'm like, oh boy.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Obama. One perspective I've definitely changed is that people don't fucking mean shit. Like I don't know, man. Growing up, I was like always really conscious. I was always aware of my surroundings in the sense of like being like aware that other people know that I'm like there in a way. So I was very cautious about things that I did in public. Like very like, just want to not like wallflower kind of like seeping to the background, but like knowing that like, I could be, if I'm going to be a dickhead, people are going to like, fucking not put up with that shit kind of thing. And
yeah,
just that perspective of not being I feel like a hockey interviewer saying so much, that perspective of being aware of like who I am and where I'm at and not to piss people off is something that's grown on me. But now I just kind of don't give a fuck. Before I used to be like, I don't know, before I used to think I had a chip on my shoulder, but then after a while I'm just like, I ain't shit, I'm just a dude on the internet. That's it.
I think that's, well, it's certainly not a threshold everyone crosses where they're just like, yeah, I don't really care anymore. There are always people who I think will live for the drama and always care about what other people think of them. But, that was a thing. It's not even a recent thing. Like, that was a thing for me, like YouTube and Twitch wise, like 5 years ago or something, longer than that, actually. Where like my first couple of years of doing anything was, okay, be as uncontroversial, non-controversial as you possibly can be.
Neutral, yeah.
Don't try to piss it. Yeah, neutral's a good word for it. There you go. Smart man. And eventually it just took the change of like, and I respect people that can do that are just always like, well, I don't really You know, because it's an effort. It is an effort to exist on the internet in a way to try and not piss anybody off. And number one, that's impossible, right? You can look at somebody.
Oh, I know.
You can look at somebody like Nasher, who is genuinely a really nice guy. And even if you're someone like him, who's, as far as I know, never done anything to anybody, has always just tried to be a nice guy, there are still people on the internet that are like, nope, fuck that guy, fuck him. And it's like, why? Just because. So, you know, you learn like there are certain aspects of the internet that don't really translate to real life. But there are, like, that aspect does translate over where no matter what the hell you do, someone's just not going to like you. Yeah. Whether it is who you are, what you sound like, what you look like. Like, you could never have an interaction. Yeah, hi, Endo.
Hi.
Your reaction to that was interesting. There's always going to be that, where it's like, this motherfucker could have never had a conversation with me, and they're just like, I don't like that person.
Oh, yeah.
So it is what it is. And you know, I feel like the sooner, you know, people come to terms with that, and again, some people never do, but the sooner someone comes to terms with that, the better, where it's just like, all right, I can't win every single battle here. Like, you, no matter what the hell you do, you cannot make every person you're ever going to come across like you. And it's pretty freeing to hit that point and just be like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. No problem.
Yeah, like, I think the first time you get to that threshold, you're like, oh fuck. So this is what it's like to have like a normal, not normal, but like a blank like compass in your head, just not really thinking or doing anything. It's kind of like people who, well, myself, when they tell people like, you know, like my brain's firing at 1,000 miles a minute whenever I'm just sitting down and I'm always thinking of something. And then someone's like, oh, my head's just empty 24/7. I'm like, how do you do that? You know, as someone who, you know, has feelings that they're definitely on the spectrum. Thanks, Mom, for telling me that I'm totally on the spectrum. It's definitely worked the past 25 years of my life. Knowing that over the past year, it's answered every single one of my problems, essentially being like, oh, it's because you're literally autistic. I'm like, thanks. It's great.
Autism is quite the catch-all, isn't it?
Autism speaks, brother. Autism speaks. Dude, they retconned ADHD into autism, so like I definitely have it. Like 100%. I made a joke about that, but that's not even a joke.
I got nowhere to go with that. I'm sorry.
No.
I can't play off of that.
It's just a fact. Like, I don't know when, but during the past like 4 years, they doctors or the, you know, experts essentially were like, hey, yeah, so ADHD is a subsection of autism. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then people started putting like on, this is obviously Twitter's not a great source for anything, but they started putting AUDHD in their fucking Twitter bios. And I'm like, yo, is this like, what is going on here? Like, am I collecting the 7 Dragon Balls? Like, what is going on? I think a few people like that joke.
What is your Venn diagram of autism, Enda?
I don't know, but I'm right in the middle.
All encompassing.
There's like 15 circles, and I'm like right in the middle, brother.
There you go. Fair enough. Well, with that, what's your favorite birthday memory? That's our next question.
My favorite birthday memory was the Maple Leafs getting their ass kicked in the Maple Leaf meltdown on my birthday. Actually, I think I do have a better memory. My cousin, who is now a lawyer, congratulations, and he's my lawyer. He he got me seats. He got me box seats for a Blue Jays game on my birthday, and he actually got my name on the happy birthday board, which I've never had that before in my life, and it was pretty sweet. Because like him and I'm gonna get personal again on the podcast. Him and I have been close because I'm an only child. I don't have any like real brothers or sisters. Sorry, Tougie. And I like growing up, single mother. You know, kid was basically doing stuff whenever. She had me in all these sports, keep myself occupied, so I wasn't really bored or anything. But you know, my uncle was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you on there. I'm gonna raise you as my son in a way." And he has like 5 kids of his own, right? So they basically became like cousins, but a lot closer than cousins. Like we're basically brothers and sisters. And like him and I growing up together, he's only a year older than me. So out of the rest of the group, like we just kind of bonded really, 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 really well. Like we still talk almost every day. It was his birthday actually last weekend. His birthday was on the I think it was on the Friday, and his mom was on the Saturday. So I think you and his mom share the same birthday. So happy birthday for both of you.
There you go. Happy
Yeah.
birthday, stranger I don't know.
Yeah, her name's Lily, Auntie Lily. Auntie Lily. But yeah, we bonded from there, and they've been basically my brothers and sisters for what now 25 years. So it was really touching that he spent the money to get a box. It was just him and I, like just chilling. Get all the food I want, and that's when I turned 19. So I was able to finally get a legal drink. And then after that we had a birthday party at my my stepdad's family home, and it was good. I have people from people there from school. One of it's funny because at the time I was single, and my my dad was like, "Hey, how about that girl? Like, what is she? Like, how is she? Like, do you like her?" I'm like, "Dad, it's not going to work." And the only reason why he pointed her out because she was Italian, and he's Italian, so he's like, dinner paisan in the family, huh? Like, no, I'm gonna go as far from there as possible. And then, like 2 years later, I met Polina. So there's that.
You didn't go as far as possible, but you did go almost as north as possible.
I went 24 hours of actual travel.
Still pretty far.
Yeah, it takes 12 hours to get to wherever to get a transfer flight. Yeah, so it's like 3 whole days of travel to visit her family, which is great.
There you go. For me, God, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of the ones in regards to like, gifts, experiences, whatever, were from when I was younger. I went to a lot of Portland Pirates and Maine Mariners games just over the years. That was often just it's like, hey, let's go type of thing. Just go hang out, watch some hockey. So there's a lot of those. I don't know if one specific instance stands out because I went to so many games that I can't pinpoint exact dates of things of like, oh yeah, and that's when it was this game and stuff like that. Like, memory's a bit spotty. I'm getting old after all. So, yeah, I don't know. There's just, like I said, most of the birthdays have been less about like, oh yeah, and I got the iPhone 7 on that day. It's just more like, no, I spend my birthdays either hanging out with friends, family, both, and yeah. Simple. Yeah. I'm a simple man.
Very
simple man.
I've been doing a lot too with like Marley's games because of how cheap it is. Just birthday special event that I have going on. Just go to a Marley's game. I think last year, my birthday, I went to go to the Marley's game with my parents, and it was pretty cool because Malcolm Subban was in net for the Americs, and my mom knows the Subban family like pretty well. So like, she like waved over, and he like second glanced like halfway through the intermission. Was like, "Oh shoot!" Like, "Hey, whatever." Like, and they actually knew each other, kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
Malcolm Subban on the podcast one. Bruins legend.
I mean, PK Subban just did a podcast with some random kid from Montreal. So hey, anything's possible.
You never know, right?
I could literally say, "Hey, PK, we have the same birthday. You want to come on and talk hockey?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." He'll come with like a Don Cherry suit and just do it all up.
Our final question, shockingly, is hockey related.
Boo.
Congratulations. A prominent documentarian has come to you and offered you the chance to make a hockey documentary, but they give you one caveat. It must be about a specific obscure thing regarding the culture or the history of the sport, what is your documentary about? I have an answer for this. And, because it mentions an obscure thing about the history of the sport, I would like to see Ken Reed's book about people who only scored one goal in the NHL. I'd like to see that expanded out into an actual documentary with interviews with people that were focused upon in the book, just to kind of get more of a spotlight on that, on that facet of the sport, right? Because, for example, one of the things we could have talked about today, and we could touch up on it now, is, hey, Austin Matthews hit 50 goddamn goals already. And there's a very good chance that he could be just the third player in NHL history to reach 500 goals before the age of 30. Everybody kind of knows how good Austin Matthews is. But what about the guys who only scored that one goal or only played in that one game? Either that or just give me a documentary about like Nathan Gerbe or someone who was just very undersized that still succeeded.
Short Kings. Oh, man.
The Short Kings documentary.
Hosted by Pete Blackburn.
Yes. Or like the greatest NHL players from insert state or province here. The greatest NHL players from New Hampshire.
You must be this tall to rot. The NHL short story.
We found it, everybody. We found it. Oh, God. There we
go. It's great. Oh, there we go. Great.
It's a collaborative effort from Endo and myself. We're both executive producers. Presented by Pete Blackburn. We want the Short Kings documentary. Let's hear from the shortest of Short Kings in NHL history. Let's see if I do shortest NHL players ever.
I think Gerbe's the shortest.
There's an article from themodestman.com from February of 2020 that lists, oh my God. Number 1, 5'3", Roy Shrimp Waters. Holy fuck. Who was a goddamn goalie.
Yeah.
At 5'3", was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1969, won the Vezina winner, was the Vezina winner in 1931, the Hart winner in 1929, having played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Montreal Canadiens, and the New York Americans. Give me a documentary on that guy. And then you have at 5'5", Nathan Gerbe, only 5'6", Theo Fleury. Was he really that short?
Yeah.
Christ. No wonder why he has issues.
100%.
That's just a short man in a tall man's game.
Yeah. They say that short people are just closer to hell, and damn, Theo's pretty close to that, so. Yeah,
feel free to ignore his Twitter. Darren Pang at 5'5", another goalie.
Legend.
Robbie Moore at 5'5", 5'7", Gump Worsley. Dude, most of these fucking people on the list are goalies, I swear to God.
Yeah. Because,
Jesus.
Skating forward was a tall man's game, so they just shoved the short guy in net.
Christ.
Roy Shrimp.
Gump Shrimp Worsley. Or whatever the hell it was. That's tremendous. Ah, goodness. So there you go. Give us the Short Kings documentary. That's what we're here for.
I think if I were to do one just for myself, I think it would be on players not willing to get new equipment. They're like the reason why I say this is there are goalies in the NHL who have used their spec stuff from when they played junior. Like Jonathan Quick uses gear that is spec'd out from when he was playing in junior, which is like 20 years ago. There are guys who literally will not wear or use like new sticks or new gear or new skates Like, what was it? Patrick Marleau famously used a 2-piece stick up until he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is 20 years of using a 2-piece stick. Unheard of in the modern game. Unheard of.
20 years of superstition.
Just a little stition. Just a little stitious.
Just a little. That's not superstition. Just a little tition.
Yeah.
Ah, goodness. I'm intrigued. I don't know. I think there's a lot of like obscure documentaries that could. I mean, fuck, Alexander Daigle, which apparently it's Daigle, by the way. I remember growing up, it was always Alexander Daig, but now apparently the French Canadians are just like, nope, it's Daig, but actual French people say Daigle. So there you go. There's a further divide. If he can get a goddamn documentary, then damn it, anybody can.
Poor guy.
Give the Green Men a documentary. They're back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually
Canadian
kind of
heritage moment. Just throwing the waffles up. God, that was my favorite post, and I put that out at like 2 a.m. and it got like no love. I'm like, these people fucking suck. Like we haven't even talked about so many things because of how long it took for us to get an actual podcast together. We didn't talk about fucking the Ridley Grieg, how it should be the Blitzkrieg. Come on. Come on, that's amazing. We had that happen, and we had it happen in the women's hockey game. People were like, oh, this should have happened. Like, oh, she didn't throw a hit on him after what happened. Like,
yeah, she didn't cross check the woman in the head that did the slap shot in an empty net. Imagine, I thought that's what you had to do for the sake of the code. Crazy.
And now, like, anytime someone has a slap shot on a goalie, they're like, oh, you're gonna do the Ridley Grieg shot? Oh boy, it's a Grieg, it's a Blitzkrieg. You unoriginal fucks. God.
How fucking cool is that for Ridley Gregg?
Yes.
That now already, like, that could be like what he's famous for. By the end of his career, it could be, he'll always be remembered for that. Even if his career doesn't really pan out. That guy has his spot in history. It just is what it is. You know, I think, what was it? Either today or at some point in the past couple of days, we don't like to mention him because of reasons you've pointed out, but the whole David Ayers game, like, that guy will never be forgotten. Scott Foster will never be forgotten. Now, obviously, Ridley Gregg is a hell of a lot more accomplished than those guys. He wasn't an e-bug. But if Ridley Gregg's career fizzles out, he will always be remembered as, the guy that took a slap shot on, on the empty net. Like, similar to even how someone like, there's a couple of people that have done it, but like David Leggio, who was an AHL level goalie, has played in Europe a lot. But I say that name and some people will be like, yep, the guy that on a breakaway tipped the net over so they couldn't score, and he took the penalty instead of the breakaway.
Yep.
Ridley Gregg has that now for the slap shot on the empty net. A woman did it. What was it? A college game, I think. It wasn't PWHL. But, a woman did it in the game. Oh, she pulled a Ridley Gregg. He's already synonymous with an action in hockey, and it's not necessarily a negative action. It's not like, oh, you Todd Bertuzzi'd that guy, in reference to the Steve Moore incident. It's like, no, slap shot on an empty net. Ridley Gregg did. I agree that the Blitzkrieg would be a hell of a lot better of a name, but people are pretty unoriginal.
People suck, man. I think another thing too is just the way that God, this, I don't want to like bash Sten's Twitter because Leafs Nation is just as bad. Considering that we stole another team's goal song and we don't even like cheer with the song at all. We just kind of sit back corporately and just clap. Have you ever seen an example of that? Have you ever seen like South Korea performing for North Koreans? So like when they started, like, this is like a couple years ago, they started like, showcase like what they have for culture, and it was just a bunch of North Koreans in the crowd, just like suit and tie, because they're very, authoritarian dictatorship over there, so they're very like straight nose, whatever. You don't cheer unless you're told to cheer, kind of thing. And the South Koreans are performing their music or whatever performance, and they're just all like stone faced, just like in the crowd, like, what am I supposed to enjoy, kind of thing. That's what it feels like to be at a Leaf game. The entire lower bowl is just that. And the upper bowl is people, who can kind of afford it. They had to sell their kidney and, their child's college fund is now being spent on hockey tickets. But yeah, just trying to enjoy it a little bit.
Well, it's funny because I do think, Islanders fans called him this for a different reason. That means you can call John Tavares Kim Jong-un. Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it.
You're welcome. I'm like, what player name on the Leafs goes well with this North Korean dictator pun? That was the best that we had. I think we can recap this by saying, save us green men with waffles. Even though the Bruins blew that game, it's fine. Is that the first time North Korea's been brought up on this podcast? Oh, God. Well done, Endo. Well done. Speaking of goalies, then, really quickly. Earlier this week, or last week now, the New York Islanders were trailing in the third period. And with like 11 minutes to go, Patrick Waugh pulled the goalie.
Yeah.
Your thoughts as a goalie.
Yeah.
And a hockey fan.
So there was an actual study about this done a couple years ago where people found out, hockey nerds found out that the statistical best time to pull your goalie, stat-wise, is with like 10 minutes to go in the third. I can't find the article about this, but I know this was written because I was laughing my ass off when this came out. Because just imagine just going to the bench and going and just chilling there. It's amazing. So I love the idea of this. I love random obscure shit happening in hockey, no matter what it is. Because it is always interesting to see people freak out on Twitter and to see people's discourse just kind of be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it reminds me of the Tony X tweet. The goalie just said fuck it and left? That is in that. I think that one is in the because there are certain tweets that I think the NHL and Hockey Hall of Fame did that were like, hey, we're gonna put these tweets in Hockey Hall of Fame. And I'm like,
Hall of Fame level tweets.
Yes, it was like social media moments that like were like Hall of Fame level. Hold on, Hall of Fame.
I recall
tweet.
this too. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what else was there because I mean, what else does compare to the Tony X tweet? But
oh, here it is. 129 years every season, 52 players and staff from the Stanley Cup winning team earn the ultimate honor. Their names forever engraved as champions on me. Is in the Stanley Cup. Earning that honor takes a lifetime of work and commitment, not just from your team, but from your fans. That's why for the first time ever, the NHL has selected 52 tweets from loyal fans to accompany me as the official championship artifacts. Your tweet is one of them. And the tweet was the Stanley Cup saying, I'll be in the building on Monday. And then Tony X, aka Solu City on Twitter, saying, you're in a long-term relationship with Pat Maroon. Because it's like when Pat Maroon was still, part of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Winning.
Yeah, that was Stanley Cup champion tweet 20 of 52. And I said that someone said that the goalie just said fuck it and left, and white people have been hiding hockey from us. This shit lit should have been Hall of Fame level tweets. I like the one where he used the N-word. That was the best. I gotta find it. I won't say the word verbatim because we'll lose any sponsorships we don't have. So, Tony X. God, where was it? It was really fucking funny. Yeah, because I found it there too. It was great. Oh man, beautiful.
It is. While you look that up, Islanders wise, by the way, when we get to our show next week, talking about hey, who should buy, who should sell. Yeah, they have 3 wins in their last 10 games. They're 9 points out of the playoffs right now. If you're Patrick Waugh, why the hell not? Just throw whatever the hell you can at the wall to try and turn things around. But it's not looking too good for the Islanders and their playoff hopes this year, amongst other teams. then again, we'll talk about next week. Did you find what you were looking for, Enda?
No, I found something else entirely different, and I'm just gonna look away and not even talk about it. That's fucking weird, dude. Yeah, never mind. Okay, we'll talk about something else because I just found something that was cursed.
Speaking of cursed,
oh man,
talking about teams that aren't in a playoff spot. I saw this stat about Jeff Skinner on Reddit the other day. Jeff Skinner is 20 games or so away from playing in 1,000 NHL games. He has not played in a single playoff career or a single playoff game in his career. The previous record for most games played before making the playoffs was Ron Hainsey, Leafs legend, who had played in 907 games, made the playoffs, and won the Stanley Cup on his first attempt. The record for never making the playoffs, 734 games for Guy Chiron. So Jeff Skinner, I mean, potentially has both of those records in terms of most games before finally making the playoffs, and potentially, I mean, he could end up with the other one for most games played in a career without ever making the playoffs. This poor man. And I'm sorry to twist the knife on Sabres fans based off of the season that they have had. But this is what you get for getting your hopes up. You're Buffalo sports fans. You should have known never to get your hopes up. It never works out. Never, ever. In terms of something, though, that we actually could talk about, that has a little bit more depth to it. Adam Ruzicka.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you mentally prepare for this one, right, Enda?
Not even that. I was going to make a sinus joke, but my sinuses are clogged, so maybe I might need to, you know. You yeah. That's a bad joke. It's one of my worst. Apologies.
So Adam Ruzicka is a 24-year-old former draft pick of the Calgary Flames who earlier this season was claimed on waivers by the Arizona Coyotes. And oh yeah, no, by the way, what you posted, I had seen that. Yeah, people are weird. So what happened was Mr. Ruzicka clearly accidentally posted a public video on Instagram that you can kind of tell was supposed to be private of him partaking in a little bit of the powder, little bit of the you call it what you want, right?
He went skiing in Phoenix.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
So this video circulated in large part due to Andy and Rono. Terrible people. Terrible. Ruined his career.
Sports nerds gonna defend sports nerds. I love that.
God. So that, by the way, referencing Andy and Rono is an account on Twitter. They do a lot of analytics stuff. They at AR Hockey Stats. They are based in the Czech Republic, where I mean, Ruzicka's Slovakian, but who knows? Maybe there's a rivalry there, and they wanted to ruin it for
race war.
Basically, what they did was like, oh shit, and then they snitch tagged a bunch of reporters as if people weren't going to hear about this anyway. It was already out there. I think people directing their anger at these two probably misguided, even if you think, oh, they're cringe or whatever. It's just like, whatever. I think that's focusing the energy on the wrong place. Ruzicka ended up getting put on waivers with the intention to terminate his contract, which went through, and indeed he has been released by the Coyotes. Now, as far as what this means for him, That's a very good question right now. Hockey Slovakia put out a statement regarding him, being that he is Slovakian, essentially stating that his actions don't align with that of a national team player, and we don't intend to call him up for any pre-tournament games or the World Championships now, which he certainly would have been a part of. So he is facing consequences both from an NHL perspective, from an international perspective, and at home perspective. And in that way, it's tough to feel a ton of sympathy for the guy. It's like, you're 24 years old, man. You know better. You know, you fucked up. You're living with the consequences of that fuck up, right? I mean, it's not going to stop him from playing professional hockey in his career. He'll land somewhere, perhaps even the KHL. People are saying the KHL. He'll still be fine in regards to being a professional hockey player. There's a chance this was going to be his last season in the NHL anyway. We don't know. So for him, he's not canceled or anything. It's just the consequences of his actions. But there is the aspect of, if he was a bigger player, if he was an Evgeny Kuznetsov, would he have gotten away with this? And
I mean, wait a second. Kuznets, wasn't there an issue? Wasn't there a similar story with the Capitals? Exactly. I was like, Cooch or Coots? It's Kuznetsov.
Yeah. He was photographed once upon a time in a hotel room with a very similar looking substance in front of him on a table.
It's protein. It's the fastest way to use protein is up the nose.
Yes.
You hear about that? No.
So from his standpoint, it's not surprising to see that a lower level player, a team just went, fuck this, we can't be having this, you're gone. There are the questions of, if he was a superstar player, would this have had the same outcome? The answer is probably no. Let's be honest. He probably would have been fine. You also have the situation of the player assistance program, and that's a fight that's likely to continue on in regards to, well, why wasn't he put into the player assistance program and just outright released? The Players Association has the ability to fight that as well. So this story probably isn't done. But a lot of people's response to this was, come on, everybody does it. Which, yeah.
Who's everyone?
Who's everyone? Right.
Yeah.
But is there high recreational drug use amongst professional athletes?
There is drug use amongst semi-pro athletes.
Yes.
There's drug use amongst guys who play in beer league. Mm-hmm. I can probably count you on like on my hands how many people in my Thursday league have either done or are currently using, specifically of the powder variety. It is a thing. I mean, half of the guys work for CPAs anyway, so it's like commonplace.
But how many of them have been dumb enough to accidentally post themselves using? And that's the difference, you know? Yeah. That's the difference. It just is. Like, no one's going to deny the fucking partying culture in hockey, obviously. But, yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, I don't think anyone's necessarily surprised in a variety of ways. I don't think anyone's surprised, like, oh my God, an NHL player with drugs. I don't believe it.
Oh.
Like obviously, like no one's that foolish, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people are that naive, but I don't think anybody can necessarily be surprised at, oh, NHL team just wants to immediately. I don't know what people were expecting, right? Like, just because it's like, oh, it's a part of hockey culture, doesn't mean that someone's not going to face consequences from it. And, oh, well, would Superstar have gotten cut? Probably not, but we know that's how these things work Not even just sports. Consequences are different based on the circumstances of who you are and what you provide. That is just a fact. So for Adam Ruzicka, it's, hey, sorry, buddy. You should have been Clayton Keller. Because Clayton Keller probably doesn't get cut. And I'm sure Clayton Keller's a good Christian boy who would never. But, you know, if you're going to fuck around like that, you know that there are double standards. And I don't think anybody can be surprised by this. I'm not saying it's right, but you did a stupid and now you're paying for the stupid. What's the old saying? I believe it was in the New Testament. Fuck around and find out. Here we are. There you go. Aside from that, couple other things really quickly. Endo, true or false, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, aka the Vegas Golden Knights, are trying to cheese the cap again.
Probably. Who gives a fuck, man? You all could have voted against it when Tampa Bay originally did it. Y'all didn't. You're like, oh yeah, if you're injured, you don't count against the cap because you're not really playing if you're on LTIR. You could have stopped it at the CBA agreement. You could have stopped it. You didn't. So this is the life you chose. This is the die you've cast. Yeah. This is your
consequences of your actions.
Exactly.
That's the theme of the last few minutes. That is the theme. Mark Stone is out with what is reported to be a lacerated spleen, which sounds horrific. I believe it was from Frank Seravalli. Timeline is tough to pin down. We'll see in the playoffs, Mark, is pretty much what everyone's suspecting. And yeah, like you said, the NHL had the ability to change this ruling. And don't get me wrong, I think it would be very interesting if, a player like Mark Stone being injured, unless you do like what they do in they do it in the NHL too, but the NFL especially. Unless you were to outright say, this player is shut down for the season. He cannot play again in the regular season or playoffs. Unless that's a thing, then they still count against the cap. Because I think that would make it pretty interesting in regards to how teams would structure themselves. Like a team like Toronto, what the fuck would you do in terms of trying to manage depth? They're already having that problem as it is. Imagine William Nylander goes down and you don't get that cap relief, right?
Yeah.
I also don't think that NHL or the NHLPA would like that, because then it would probably result in players getting less money. So it all kind of makes sense by the end of it that they didn't fix it. And again, it's not a situation that only Vegas or Tampa can take advantage of. It's everybody. It's just, you got to be, if it is nefarious, you just have to be smart about how you're trying to pull that off. And maybe Mark Stone would be good to play in the middle of March, but who's to say? Maybe Gabriel Landeskog could actually physically play hockey right now for the Colorado Avalanche. But is it beneficial for them to get through this trade deadline, maybe pick somebody else up, and then you also get your captain back? It is pretty beneficial. That's what professional sports are. It's gamesmanship and trying to bend but not break the rules to your favor. That happens in every goddamn professional sport. That is just a fact. So the NHL is no different, and yeah, I don't view that as a big issue whatsoever. What I do wonder in regards to what is viewed as an issue or not, from your perspective here, Endo, is another kind of bigger topic similar to the Ruzicka thing. Matt Rempe of the New York Rangers might be the most talked about player in the league right now, despite the fact that he has played in less than 10 NHL games at this point.
He has like a combined like 10 NHL minutes, dude. Of like actual ice time in like 5 games. It's nuts.
In those 5 games, he has averaged 4 minutes of time on ice a game, including 1 game against New Jersey where he had 1 shift and played 13 seconds. So the conversation surrounding Matt Rempe right now is in regards to his consistency in fighting. He debuted in the Stadium Series game that the Rangers played over the last couple of weeks and immediately fought in his first shift against Matt Martin. Then, on Saturday, after a 6-day break, on Saturday, he fought Nick Delorier when they played the Philadelphia Flyers. And the next day, he fought against Matthew Olivier when they played the Columbus Blue Jackets. He is now at 10 fights on the season between the NHL and the AHL, with a total of, again, 5 NHL games. And in the AHL for the Hartford Wolfpack, he's played 43 games. So 10 fights over 48 games. Mark Spector put out a tweet, quote, Rempe shouldn't be doing this every day. Someone in the Rangers org needs to take better care of this young man. He doesn't always have to say yes to fighting. It'll be a short career if he does. He is kind of bringing back up the conversation surrounding enforcers and an aspect of the game that we haven't seen on display like this in a while. Because this used to be commonplace. You get a younger guy, and keep in mind, this dude's only 21 years old.
Yep.
You get a guy, former 6th round pick, gets a shot at the NHL level, and is literally fighting for his spot. Scrapping as much as he possibly can for his spot. This used to be just the way things were. Over the last couple of years, it hasn't quite been that. And now we're getting a glimpse of it again. And it's raising the questions over, is that what people want hockey to be again? Because on one hand, there's no denying it's exciting to see a young kid just kind of show up. Arbor Jacki is a great example. It's exciting to see a young kid make the league and just be like, I'm going to go fucking crazy and do everything I can to prove that my team should keep me here. But that's a dangerous line to walk, because I don't really have another way to phrase it. If we're calling that a tightrope, you can look over each side and see a trail of bodies in terms of people who walked the path that Matt Rempe is on right now and paid the price for it. Whether or not it's been the ultimate price, or whether or not it's someone like Zenon Konopka, who had a documentary piece about him in the last couple of years. I believe he was interviewed for Ice Guardians, if I'm not mistaken, which was 2016 already. But within that film, it was showcasing just how beaten down and broken his body was by his mid-30s. But again, that's a guy who was undrafted and who probably wasn't going to make the NHL otherwise, unless you rack up, as he did in the 2010-2011 season, 307 penalty minutes. And I don't know the answer. Every time we've talked about fighting, I've always said, like, look, I'd be cool if they just said no more fighting. I would be. But also, if there's a really good scrap, like there was between he and Delorier, my monkey brain goes, yay, punch each other. Because I grew up a hockey fan with fighting. I've always said it. Like, I grew up as a fucking Bruins fan. Yeah, I'm very shy from fighting. Grew up a Bruins fan. Always say, yeah, I was indoctrinated on Mike Milbury going into the stands and beating a man with the
his
man's
own
own
shoe.
shoe. Like, I'm not that soft where I'm like, oh, fighting. No, like, yeah, I'll watch the fucking scraps and enjoy them. But there is also that people side of things. And I don't think you can make the argument that, oh, Adam Ruzicka, we need to do the best we can to protect him from his own personal choices off the ice, but then say, well, on the ice, hey, fuck it, it's Rempe's choice. If he wants to destroy his brain cells, let him destroy his brain cells. Like, where is that line between protecting the players versus, well, it's their own choice, so let them do what they want to do? And I don't know the answer to that, but I just find it interesting, those two topics in particular, over how some people feel about the Ruzicka thing versus others. And then you get the both sides of the coin here for the Rempe thing, where what is the right answer? And I'm not sure in general what the right answer is here, because there again is that entire history of players being like, the only way I'm going to make it to the NHL is if I fucking destroy my body more than being a professional athlete already does. Right? Like, Sidney Crosby's not a fighter, but you know that in a lot of ways his body is beat to shit, because that's just the nature of being one of the top 0.1% of athletes in the world. That's just a part of it. Then you have someone who might be a fucking career enforcer, and it's like, well, Jesus Christ, like, yes, that was your way of making money and the only way you were going to make it in professional hockey. But at the same time, is that what you want the sport to be? Where it's, yep, this is an avenue for you. Like, it would suck for some of these guys to not get to live their dream and to make their living in this way. But then what is that line of protecting people from themselves? To say, yes, if we allow this, you could make a living this way, but we're trying to save you from yourself, type of thing. And I don't know. It's been a topic that's been there for a long time. I mean, the guy in Matt Rempe's case, 2 points, scored his first goal in the most gritty way possible. He was screening the goalie using his 6'7" frame, and it just bounced off of his skate.
6'8". You gotta get it right.
He's listed as 6'7" on NHL.com, but maybe 6'8" in skates.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, I want to root for Matt Rempe to do well, to succeed and living his dream. But, it's that conversation of, can a 21-year-old rightfully, even can a 30-year-old rightfully look at the consequences of their actions in that regard and just be like, all right, well, they made the choice. It's fine. And maybe that is the right answer. Maybe it is. It's just, look, there's enough information out there about CTE and the effects of this. So if you're going to choose to go after this and proceed with this, well, the risks, so deal with it. I don't know what the answer is. The other aspect to that is someone else who was in the news over the past week is a former enforcer. Matter of fact, he is still an enforcer to this day.
Yeah.
And that is 52-year-old Donald Brashear, who was in the news cycle for a fight. And this is one of those things where it's just like, okay, how do we feel about this type of thing? Now, in Brashear's case, there's been a lot of conversation about money mismanagement from his playing career. He was in the NHL from 1993 until 2010. But there was a lot of conversations about money mismanagement and what it is. But the fact is, you now have one of these guys that walked that line of would he have been an NHLer unless he could fight? And now you see him again at 52 years old, getting into fights in the LNAH,
So
which is
about that league, I will say this: that is the like semi-pro league in Quebec. Excuse me, semi-pro league in Quebec. That is like a fighter's paradise. That league has fights all the time. There is a very famous video where there was a legitimate line brawl, like the entire bench all just going at each other, and one dude like fought like 4 guys on the other team or whatever, and it was insane. Like that league is like, if you're a fighter and enforcer, no matter how old you are, that's your haven, your place to be, kind of thing. Just flat out.
Like I said, I don't know what the great answer is, but all I know is that it is sad to see Donald Brashear at 52 being like, what's my best way to make a couple $100 a night? 52 years old, get dropped in a fight.
I mean, I feel like if you're in that league itself, you know that it's a fighters league or whatever.
That's fair too.
I think he's definitely aware that, you know, it's what he's for. At the same time, you know, you can tell a guy not to do something, he can go do it. You can't really control him in that kind of sense. So if a guy wants to go out there and, you know, be an enforcer in a league like that at 52, go for it. He's personally signing up for it. It's not as if teams are throwing him out there on purpose. It's like, he wants to go and fight out there, you can go fight out there, kind of thing.
Yeah. Again, that's the conversation, right? In terms of personal responsibility, the personal choice of what you are going to do versus what is the responsibility of the sport to say, and the NHL especially, to be like, okay, we want this to be a thing versus we don't want it to be a thing. What was learned in the aftermath of guys like Derek Bogard, Wade Belak and company passing away very young, and is that, you know, a direction that you're okay with going towards, or is that something where it's like, you know, Rempe, we love you, bud, but let's not have this like be the primary way that you're competing in the NHL, because it's not going to last. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the answer is, but it's interesting that this conversation is still kind of going on in regards to what is the NHL going to be, and what is the role of enforcers, and what's the standard for fighting going to be, and all of that moving forward. To end on a somewhat high note, I also wanted to just validate Red Wings fans really quickly. Detroit currently in a playoff spot, and a big part of the reason as to why they are is Patrick Kane, who scored the overtime winner for the Red Wings over Chicago in Chicago over the weekend. Kane is now at 28 points in 27 games played. There were a lot of questions about, is this guy cooked? And the end of last season, yeah, it wasn't looking very pretty. Has off-season surgery, signs middle of the season with Detroit, and it was going to go one of two ways. It was either going to be like, yeah, no, you're pretty much done, or it was going to be, oh shit, he's back, and the surgery worked and helps him kind of turn back the clock and get things back under control. And yeah, it's the latter. And Patrick Kane is looking as good as he's looked in a very, very long time. Even from an analytical standpoint, not just from a point production standpoint, because someone like him, even if, you know, you look like Jaromir Jagr, you know, when he was playing for like the Florida Panthers and stuff like that, it's like he didn't quite have the speed, but he still had the hands and the positioning know-how to still succeed somewhat. So Patrick Kane was never going to turn into fourth line scrub. But there was that question of like, okay, can he still be Patrick Kane? The answer after that surgery is yes. So Red Wings fans, enjoy the run, enjoy the ride. And even Hawks fans get to be happy because it means they didn't get an extra point. They only got the 1 point. And they are currently bottom of the league right now and will end up with Macklin Celebrini at the end of this year, probably, as well. So
that game was weird because like there were several reasons why they were cheering. One, they were close to the Celebrini. Two, Patrick Kane scored. And right. Three, he scored the overtime winner. Like, that was... If there was a script writer out there, that is the perfect script. Because everyone loves seeing everything scripted nowadays for sports. That started, like, after the pandemic, where everyone's like, oh, script writing, Mickey Mouse championships or whatever.
Taylor Swift ruining football.
Yeah, you know... Oh, they're gonna propose and all that. Like, they've been dating for like 6 months. I know celebrities move quick, but like, Jesus Christ.
Oh God, that was fun though. That was a fun time. Remember when Taylor Swift ruined football?
By having a combined hour, not even an hour. By having a combined less than 1 minute of screen time throughout the entire game. And she had maybe like 45 seconds during like the celebrations.
Right. Ruined football. Terrible person. With that, everybody, we're going to wind things down for this week. I want to give Endo a ton of props and a ton of credit as a man who on half an hour's notice said, yeah, we can record. I just woke up, but I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made it. We did it. We made it.
Yeah, my food's supposed to be here in like... Oh no. Oh no, they're on a bike, but they're definitely walking. That's fucking annoying. Okay. Yeah, it's great. Sorry. I was supposed to get two salad, and they said they're on a bike, but they're definitely walking because it doesn't take that long to walk from essentially my parents' place to my place.
Lying bastards.
Yeah, it's even worse when they say, oh, I'm in a car, and then they're walking, and you're like, my food is now cold. Like, if this was a soup, this would not be a soup. This would be a fucking, like, smoothie.
And what do you have going on in terms of the content creation sphere?
Streaming Be a Pro. I'm gonna go find my GoPro for, this week because we start playoffs for our hockey team and I kind of want to win a championship and I kind of want to record it because I haven't won a winter season championship. And if you win the winter season, you get to play facilities. And then if you win facilities, you play nationals. So then all the ASHL teams, you know, they get an invite to go play at the national tournament where you play teams all across Canada. And then you win the championship, you get some money, and you are the top team in Canada. And we play the top we play in the highest division that they offer. At least at our arena. So it's kind of like it's C hockey, but it's like nowhere near C hockey because we have a whole bunch of former like BCHL players, junior, college, like D1, D3 kind of thing. So it's a deceptive C level hockey.
Neat.
Yeah. So hopefully I can get the GoPro out to record that. Use one of my headphones as a microphone so I can have me mic'd up. It'll be probably shitty quality, but hey, it's better than nothing.
Better than Crash Andrews in an airport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
he's gonna hide down in the bathroom, just kind of like record the podcast. He's pissing next to a dude, and he's like, "Why are you talking about Ric Flair?"
You boys talking wrestling? I'll be on the NCAA football streets for a couple of days before heading to the streets of Greensboro, North Kakalaki. And then I'll
North
be back for a few
Carolina.
days to talk hockey on a podcast and stream. And then I'm going to Boston. And then finally I'll settle down in the middle of end of March, hopefully.
What's happening in Boston?
Big business.
Oh yeah, the business.
AEW Big Biznew. What pisses me off is they announced another show in like early April in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's like, that's too close. It's just like less than a month apart. I can't do it. My friends are like, it's too much. And I'm like, I agree, it's too much.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to that. That'll be the first show somewhat close to me where I'm like, I can't make it. I can't do
Unless
it.
you get a big dono from a chat member. And you're like, oh, I'm going, yeah.
No, it's not a money thing. I could go financially, no problem. It's just a logistics thing of like, oh god, middle of the week, and it's like a double like Dynamite and Collision taping because
it's one of those.
Like, yeah,
Toronto's supposed to have one of those too. The next one they're having at Coca-Cola Coliseum is like a Rampage, Dynamite, Collision. Like, it's literally like 12 hours, like 7 hours of wrestling. 12 hours? No. It's like, oh, it throws open at 7. It's like 8, 9, 10, 11, like 11:30 you're getting out of that building.
Yeah. So I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. But it's okay. I will live. There was bound to eventually be an AEW show in the state of Massachusetts that I couldn't make, either living or dead. It was just statistically going to happen. Happy birthday, America. We'll see you next time, everybody. And make sure to join the petition for the Short Kings NHL documentary. We'll see you next time.